Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the DoersCast. I'm your co-host, Mr. Gardner.
And I'm your co-host, Rodney Bradford Duransburg.
This is an original series powered by entrepreneurs at Austin. The podcast is centered around small business owners and entrepreneurs who have put actions to their ideas to achieve their dreams. These people are the ultimate doers among us, and it's our job to highlight their experiences. Rodney, we got a very special guest today.
Yes, of course. So today we're excited to bring on today's guest, as honestly, he's a stand-up brother from Chicago that I've been fortunate enough to have been introduced to. He and his wife have been in the mobile home investing industry for about 4 years. And during that time, they went from living check to check, hustling even as a Lyft driver, to now running the largest educational platform for mobile home investing on YouTube. You can find them over on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at Mobile Home Elite Investors. And as always, their info will be below in the description. But without further ado, please welcome our very special guest, Mr. Byron Sellers.
Woo! Appreciate that introduction.
Yes, sir. Well, hey, I wanted to ask you first just more of a surface level question to those that don't know. What is mobile home investing and how did you get into the industry?
Yeah, so what mobile home investing is, a lot of times people see the trailers that they call it, or seeing trailer parks. That's a lot of times most people refer them into. And I think if you go to movies, it's 8 Mile, or you see shows on Netflix, Trailer Park Boys. These are the homes that are overlooked. And so what mobile home investing is, it's basically the investment of an affordable housing that is basically movable, right? These homes are usually fixated on land, but they have the option to be moved as well. And so what mobile home investing is, I teach people how to buy and hold, how to fix and flip, or even how to wholesale these actual mobile homes to help people, provide affordable housing. How I ended up getting into it is really by fate. As you guys talked about, I was driving Lyft, and I came across a podcast, which was Bigger Pockets, about mobile home investing. And the young lady, she was bringing out valuable points about how she started with, very low capital. And so I was really, I was intrigued. And at the time I was driving my passengers around. And normally I always have my passengers listen to podcasts with me. But at that particular time, the passengers asked me, could I turn it off? They wanted to listen to me. And so I ended up sending that over to Sharnice, my queen. And when I got home, she was super excited. She's like, "Yeah, baby, this is what we're doing." And, we started diving in and really started, check to try to find everything that we could about mobile home investing. And for next thing, we just find ourselves driving, hours every 2 days, hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours to different mobile home communities to start becoming engulfed in it.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to ask this, how long did it take for you from going to learning about the mobile home industry to making your actual first sale? And what did you have to do in order to get there?
Yeah, so it took us to our first sale, it took us 4 months. And the reason why, because we saw, probably before our first deal, we saw over 45 mobile homes. And don't get me wrong, I wanted to, just sometimes they tell you when you go shopping, don't buy the first thing that you see. That's how it was. When I saw the first mobile home, I'm like, oh, I want to buy it, because the lady said, she said it was $1,500. And when you looking at single family homes, it was no way in heck that you see any home that will be $1,500. Exactly. And so, for myself, it was good that I had a partner to be there with me to say, Byron, maybe let's take a look around. And we didn't know, right? You hear about home renovations that cost $30, $40, $70, $150,000. So I'm thinking oh, this $1,500 mobile home, I can put $5,000 into this and come out. But I didn't know that, I didn't know the market. I didn't know what type of buyers. So it was good that we passed on a lot of those deals. But I kind of had that FOMO, right? I had a fear that I was going to miss out on a good deal, but everything happened, in good time.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Going back to I guess what you were saying, looking around before not just purchasing the first thing you see. I know mobile homes are obviously different from like the traditional homes, right? So they're going to be like appraised differently. How do you go about, assessing the value of these mobile homes? Because obviously, it's not like a traditional home, and where they have like appraisers that come out and like look at things. So is there like a comp equivalent for like mobile homes, or you're looking at comps, or is there a different process there?
Yeah. So when it comes to mobile homes, there are only a few things that really will tell you. Um, I guess getting close to the appraisal, right? We have it's one called the NADA guide, NADA guide. It's a paid subscription, but normally they're not going to give you the best value for your home, and most institutions are going to tell you that mobile homes depreciate. Yeah. So one way what we do, when it comes to comps, most comps when it's a mobile home community, it varies, right? What are homes selling for in that community versus what the entire city or town is commanding. So that gives you a gauge, right? So you can see how much a used home selling for, how much are your new homes selling for, and then when the mobile homes on private land, now those can be comped with actual houses that are in the community. So for example, if a house in the community is 250,000 and a mobile home is on private land, you can possibly get, you won't get as much as that house, but you could possibly get $180,000-$200,000 because now you're talking about what the land is valued at. So that gives you different things as well. And then last but not least, I tell people we determine the value. As investors, we determine what the value is. There's no one coming in to tell me like, no, you can't price this house at this amount. Yeah, and so again, I doing market research, I'll see what is commanding, but I understand what is the value, right? How much if for example, if regular houses or single family houses are selling for $150,000, and then homes in this mobile home community are selling anywhere between $15,000 to $50,000, I know I can price my home. Even if I have to put my home at $70,000, I know I'm still comparable because it's look at the demand, right? Is this mobile home park filled? If the mobile home park is filled, then my house being $70,000 is very comparable to somebody going to pay $150,000 for a house. So a lot of times I tell people we determine what the value is.
That's powerful stuff. Right? I guess another question I had was regarding. Wait, let me get to it. Oh yeah, I want to go back a little bit. Because I've seen you got your bachelor's in business administration from Lewis University, right? So that tells me you were already sort of interested in business, right? So when did you make that decision?
Yeah, so honestly, when I came out of school, I graduated college in 2007. And so the path for, was to get a corporate job and, work your way up the corporate ladder. And, that's what I thought I wanted. And, I always wanted to be busy. I mean, when I first got my first job as a transportation company, logistics company called C.H. Robinson. They're one of the largest brokers in the country. And, I remember going there the first day and I told the general manager, and I said, hey, listen, I'm going to be CEO of this company. And he just laughed at me. And I felt it was kind of disrespectful. Like, how you just going to laugh at me? I'm coming here. I'm a 21-year-old kid. And I'm thinking like, yo, I'm ready to run this place. But little did I know what type of politics and things existed. So, I'm not gonna lie, like I was, if anybody read, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I was in that rat race. All I knew was a job, and all I knew I would ask for, let me try to work my butt off to get a raise. And when I first got my first job, they paid me $37,500. That was my salary. But at the same time, that was the most money that I had ever made, on a consistent paycheck. And so, it was I always had an entrepreneurial spirit, right? I always would be coming up with ideas, but the thing was I had a lot of ideas. I didn't know how to execute my ideas. I would come up with cool ideas all the time with my coworkers, and I would talk about it with my friends, and I just had ideas. I was full of ideas, and I was always like, man, I want to lead this place. I need this. I want to start this restaurant. I want to start this, and I want to start that. And but I had no type of drive to even know how to execute. I didn't even know what an entrepreneur is. I didn't have that stuff in my family. And so really to fast forward, that stuff didn't really start to kick in until about 2015. And I had been working in the transportation industry about 10 years. I've been bounced around. I was fired from over 3 companies. And I started noticing who I was hanging with. And the friends that I was hanging with, again, I love them as people. But the friends I was hanging with, all we did was get high and play NBA 2K. And that was, and here I am in my 30s, and I was doing the same thing that I was doing when I was you guys' age, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I realized something had to change, and that was when I kind of had to flip the switch, and I got really curious about how to become a business owner, and I started really saying everybody that was wealthy, they had that, it wasn't from being employed, it was from actually being business owners. And so that's when I got really, really curious about what it was. But the first thing I had to do was fix my mindset.
Right. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I feel like nowadays, right now, I used to fall into a similar mindset where like, I really didn't appreciate like the mentality of what it meant to be as a businessman or entrepreneur. Like you, I had a million ideas that I wanted to execute on, but actually getting my foot in and like figuring it out and working out the plan step by step, it's a whole nother process. And a lot of people undermine the drive that is actually needed to build out like your minimal viable product, something you can ship out. And the thing that I wanted to ask you was like, how did you go about like shifting your mindset and changing from like the consumer, more of like working in the rat race, to then like working towards like being an entrepreneur? Because I saw that you did a lot of like life coach mentoring back in the day. So I actually wanted to touch a little bit on it and ask like, how did that affect and impact your life, and why you just continue to go through with it?
Yeah, I got curious. I think that my life at that point there was a lot of negativity around me. And it started with, I remember just like defending athletes, right? I was, a huge basketball fan, and everybody hated LeBron James, and everybody hated Russell Westbrook. And I'm like, dude, like these guys are good. And I would always find myself defending people's good, right? Versus kind of just like hate, right? Hating them. And so, that and then I started really evaluate what was around me. And I noticed there was a lot of complaining. Everybody wasn't happy, but nobody was willing to do anything about it. And so for me, I got really curious, and my dad I remember talking to my father, and he gave me some tapes from Earl Nightingale. And this guy was just like talking, and everything was just positive. Everything was just like a level of thinking. And he was talking about how to think like a high level, as a humans, and how we really can use it. And it was just like all of this stuff. I'm like, I'd never talked in that context before, because everything was just, just pop culture and what we hate about our lives. And so I started getting really curious. I started, investing. I started investing in a lot of self-help books. And I remember and I started listening to podcasts. And I'm like, there's so much information out here where people are doing so well. And I remember a gentleman, his name was Willie Colley. He had a podcast, and he talked about how a life coach changed his life. And I was like, well, if the life coach changed his life, then maybe it'll change my life. And so I got really curious. And then I I found a life coaching program that I was just going to observe. And when I went, I had never been to an event where I seen people so happy. And it wasn't just happy, it was genuine love. It was people of all ethnic groups, and they were just hugging, and everything was just high level talking. And I'm just like, I like this. This is not my norm, and I wanted something different. And so I tapped in. It was a $12,000 investment. I didn't have it, but I said I was going to figure it out. And I ended up, just tapping into it, and it was become a life coach. And so, that transformation was huge on me, right? It was able to help me detach myself from past stories and who I thought I was. And it allowed me to really start to create the life by my design. And it gave me the confidence to do those things, to go into entrepreneurship and take risk. And I think that, even in mentoring, one thing was always about giving, right? For one, being grateful, gratitude, and then also giving and being open to receiving. And so that's why I always poured into young people. I always poured into people. And even the educational program that I have now, I pour into people, because I understand that if I help somebody else to do good, I'm not even expecting it, but I know I'll be blessed on, further down the line, whether it's monetary, whether it's, a connection or anything like that, but continue to do good by people.
And that's amazing.
That's powerful, man. That's powerful.
Dude, because like of all people, because we're over here like changing those that influence you around you, because almost every successful entrepreneur out there is saying like you're some of the people you are around. And like I have to give props there, because like, dude, when you're surrounded by all those people who are just saying, okay, we're here to have fun, have a good time, rather than work towards our goals, it's really such our mindset. Because not only are you starting from scratch, from going from working like corporate to then like trying to transition into entrepreneurship, but you're also going against the grain of like those people around you. And that whole shift together is just applaudable. And with that, like with you giving yourself like media for you to consume and sort of reprogram your mind, was there like a specific like podcast or book that you love the most that you want to share to everyone out there to read?
Yeah. So one of mine, let me go in here. It was by Les Brown. Here, let me pull it up, my audiobook. And Les Brown's story was really impressive. It's called The Power of Purpose. And that was one of the books that really kind of sparked me. And I will always listen to any YouTube video with Eric Thomas and Tony Robbins. Those three guys, all motivational speakers, but all of them had a story from when they were pretty much rock bottom and when nobody believed in them, to they believed in themselves and they continued to push. And then from there, they end up helping people. And I feel like that was my story. That was going to be my story. And so, the Power of Purpose really helped me understand, okay, what is my purpose? It had me start to really dive deep in, like, what is my purpose? Like, why am I even put on this earth for? And, it really started having me ask high level questions that I never thought about, right? And, and so I became really engulfed in just a high level of thinking, how to become the best version of myself. And, I really started taking on a challenge. And, even today, I still give myself, I feel like I would never reach a point of where I'm the ultimate human being. There's always levels of growth, even at the level I am today. And so, just those things, man, those were really the catalyst for me to kind of really start looking at myself and then start changing within.
Man, that's great. And I like the fact that you mentioned Les Brown, because I found out about him through my mother. She was listening to like one of those YouTube videos, it's like a compilation of the speeches and stuff. And he was telling a story about how he got like the radio station gig. Are you familiar with that story?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
yeah.
Yep.
And he said something that really stuck with me. He said, you have to see yourself as blessed and highly favored. And so like, I'll tell myself that. I'm like, you're blessed and highly favored. And it's like, things continuously happen to me. I'm like, man, it's like it keeps, it's like an affirmation, but it's like you continuously see it once you adopt that mindset. And I guess that's going back to what you were saying, like how you always had the ideas, but you have to cultivate the mindset, because a lot of times, like, there's not even like a foundation there. It might just be like raw land. You gotta pick that. You gotta cultivate that thing and add the foundation on top, even though like it's there, right? But it's not there. So yeah, definitely. And yeah, Les Brown, that guy's an inspiration. But yeah, definitely it's the mindset thing, because that's why this is the DoersCast. A lot of people have ideas, but you gotta activate it. So all the people out there, activate that mindset. But yeah, I guess I wanted to go a little bit more into the mobile homes. So I see the majority of your deals, they're like they're flips, right?
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Okay, so
yeah.
Yeah, is it like, so it's are these like mostly like cash flips, like you buy, you resell immediately, or are these like more you buy and you're doing like seller financing? Like what percentage would you say is like seller financing versus like just a straight up flip?
Yeah, so what we're doing, I have to say, I was really going in trying to honestly do 80% seller finance. Like that's all I wanted was passive income. But what we're getting is more and more people wanted to just end up having cash, or they were taking out loans, and they're like, hey, listen, I'll buy the house right now. So it ended up being reversed 80-20, whereas we were flipping 80% of our homes, and then 20% we were getting seller finance. And so, what I learned from that, just really market research. I tell people, you want to find out if you're investing in a mobile home community, will you have more people that are looking for affordable payments, or will you have more people that have cash and more cash buyers? And so what we were running into is, it was a good time, especially even before the pandemic. Before that, a lot of more people had cash that they just wanted to just own their mobile home outright, free and clear outright, and then they'll just rather just pay the monthly lot rent from there. And so we would get some payments, but every time I wanted a home to get payments, we would get somebody that would give us a great cash offer. And so, the flips just started, really racking up for us.
Yeah. And I think I was looking here in Austin, I think the average price per square foot is like $332. And then I was listening to like your Earn Your Leisure episode, and you're like 24 per square foot, right? $24 per square foot. I'm like, damn, you know. So like, and we're facing this like a house, really like there's an affordability crisis right now, because there's people with the money and they're buying, but then there's a lot of other people out here, you know, that you're not seeing. They're like, damn, you know, I'm struggling right now, right? So you know, that's like there's a gap there, and I think you know, like you were saying, like you're sort of solving that problem, right?
No, definitely.
But something you were saying, like the pandemic, that's why I was wondering how did that sort of affect your business as a whole, you know, with COVID and everything?
Yeah. So the beautiful thing about it, our business has actually got increased during the pandemic because of the demand of affordable housing. So you had a lot of people kind of panicking, not knowing, you know, hey, you know, I don't think I'm gonna be able to afford, you know, in this apartment and things. And people wanted more of stability and that affordability. So one thing we start seeing is people begin to have cash, you know, pulling from 401ks or, you know, family members, because again, they didn't know where this was going. So they wanted to make sure their housing was, you know, paid for. And so we saw definitely a trend, but unfortunately, for example, within our mobile home communities, once they start passing I get mixed up, tongue twisted on the word. But basically, when people didn't have to actually pay rent for a while, the mobile home parks we start feeling that, and so you know we start getting a lot of people who just like, hey, I'm not paying, and so you know once they start uplifting that, you know, we had to do a nice amount of cleaning house. But it wasn't until they learned that, you know, from their peers that lived in apartments, like, well, I'm not paying my rent. Well, hey, I can go try this as well. Because at first we were getting, you know, close to 98% on our rent rolls. But, you know, and that's in March, you know, March, April. But then once you talk about, you know, June, July, August, now people are trying to take advantage. So that's, you know, after, you know, the New Year's hit, in Pennsylvania, that's when the moratorium, they uplifted, and that's when we had to go in and do quite a few evictions.
Yeah, but hey, at least it's getting back on track, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
You got something?
Yeah, so I actually wanted to ask so now, because I remember in 2019 there was an interview that you had where you said that even if 10,000 people start and join the industry right now, it still will not be saturated. There still will be a ton of value and opportunity there. And I wanted to ask, does that still hold true right now in 2021? And like, what does the barrier of entry look like for someone like myself, like a college student looking to break into like my first foot into real estate? What's the process look like? And is it still good for me to go in?
Yeah. So yeah, no, that's still true to this day. Over 22 million Americans live in mobile homes, and so you know you definitely have, like I said, 10,000 people. You know, when you talk about that, when you do the percentages, you're like, oh yeah, that's not a lot of people, and even to this day. And I think that, you know, it's what happens is it's just like wholesaling, right? Wholesaling single family homes. A lot of times people get discouraged because they're like, man, I see bandit signs everywhere. We buy homes, and no, it's saturated. And really no market is saturated. Who lasts is the people who are willing to continue going. The people who look for the money and you're like, yo, I'm just looking for the payout. You know, like that's pretty much the people who are going to jump out first, right? But, you know, I always talk about Nipsey Hussle, we talk about the marathon, and that's what any business is about. If you're willing to go in for the long haul, then you're going to have longevity, because most of the people, if you start with those 10,000 people, probably only about, I'm gonna be honest, 400 people are probably going to still be doing it, right? Everybody else it's the shiny object syndrome. They're going to go to something else. They're going to go to something trying to make money. So it's all about the long haul. And so, you know, I think the easiest entry is wholesaling mobile homes. You know, that's the ability where, you know, if you have capital, when a lot of times people ask me, well, how much money do I need to get started? And now I tell people zero. And the reason why is because you guys live in Austin. So, you know, in Austin, mobile homes are, you know, possibly anywhere from $60 to $100,000, right? You can find an off-market deal, possibly, you know, $15,000 to $20,000. And if you find something in the Austin area for $5,000 or cheaper, that is a rare gem and is doable but at the same time, it's going to come with maintenance. You're going to have to renovate. But if you go into the wholesaling way, you're just like, hey, listen, I gather and I see my data shows that, wow, I got over 100 sellers. Okay, now I do some data and I want to see who's buying. And now, oh, wow, I have over 250 buyers. Now what you're doing is you're helping solving problems, right? You're now putting, you're pretty much marrying the two. And then from there, you're taking a difference from the transaction. So, I always tell people wholesale first, right? Help people solve their problems. And then if you want to build up that capital to go and buy and hold or buy, fix and flip, then you're welcome to do that.
Yeah, I like the fact that you mentioned, problem solving when it comes to wholesaling, right? Because, and you mentioned like shiny object syndrome, right? Because a lot of people, they see it as, oh, I can make a quick buck. Oh, I'm just boom, boom, right? I'm just a middleman, right? But like you have to actually solve problems, right? It's like you're really providing a service, right? You're trying to really solve people's, actual issues. And so a lot of times, people that's like, man, they're like, man, that's so, like you were saying, it's saturated, right? But how many of those people with the vendor sites, how many of them are like actually trying to genuinely solve people's problems? Not that many, right? And so it goes back to, if you focus on problem solving, it'll be easier to be persistent, right? Because you're thinking about the problem, right? Rather than the money. And that's a lot of things in entrepreneurship, right? It's like, focus on solving the problem, and the money will come, hopefully if you're in the industry, where the money, exists.
And I'm glad you talk about, like, I'm glad that you're highlighting the process, like the big process of it, rather than romanticizing the results, because like kind of what I've realized and what I can relate to is that, like, I'm not in the real estate market myself, but what I've been doing like the past like 7 or 8 months is like dedicating myself to practicing and learning how to like trade the market. And a lot of people out there just believe that, hey, trading's super simple. Look at all these people making millions. Let me just hop in, make a quick buck. You see all those ads, those guys in the Lambos on vacation, like you see way too many of it. And there's too many of us who just jump in and say, okay, I can get a quick buck. But the reason that no market is like super saturated is because those who last the whole run are those who are dedicated to really learning about the ins and outs of it. And in the process of doing so, it's kind of like a perpetual loop cycle, because like you're gonna run into problems and you're gonna have to test like your determination, your drive to figure things out and keep going at it. And when you do that, you have to go be resourceful. You have to go read other books, develop your mindset, and it comes full circle so that by the time you actually get the result that you're proud of, that you initially sought out for, you look back behind you and say, man, look at how far I have grown as compared to like when I first started this journey. And that's why, like, when I was first talking to you, it was amazing, because like it gave me a little bit more inspiration when you were telling us that you started off cold calling people, just you and your wife cold calling 50 people a day. And that's tough, dude. That is tough. And like literally my buddies and I here over at Entrepreneurs at Austin, we're doing the similar thing, like similar process. We're on the come up story too. And honestly, I'm just like so glad that like you're on here sharing your story out there, because dude, you're honestly an inspiration in terms of like gratitude. You're there giving to everyone, man. You're out there giving to everyone, and it's coming back full circle, and we appreciate it so much. But what I did want to ask you though is, like, with all this amount that you're giving out there to the world, was there someone who like first selflessly like impacted your life and gave to you without asking anything, that led to you influencing everyone else?
Yeah, I actually, I clip it to my parents, my mother and father. Those are the first two people that really gave to me, and I think that, in my 20s, I started to understand really what they did for me and the value they brought for me. When I got my own place, my own responsibilities, and my father is one who's, he's heavily involved into, as far as into the church and things. And so, my father has helped so many people, changed so many lives. And, I got a chance to grow up watching him do that. And a lot of times I didn't really understand, and now when I look back, I always tell people I'm my father 2.0. And, as much as he's always giving, he never really wants nothing in return. He gives out of the kindness of his heart, because he genuinely wants to see people win. And he genuinely wants to see people in a good position. Even it means that, he has to give with him. After he gives everything, he's kind of, that's just the joy that he receives. And I found myself, as I, started to get older, I really started to look back and just like, wow, and my dad still gives me great advice, and so, I think that I've never had a I've never had a one-on-one mentor, shall I say. And I used to always kind of just, I sometimes I used to want those relationships, but I don't know why, not to say why it never lasted, but a lot of times mentors would even tell me, if I had a quote unquote mentor, tell me like, man, you're in a good position. You have a great mindset. Just do this, focus on helping this person. And so I kind of feel like I got thrown into a mentorship position. And again, I lean on my father a lot for just not only just advice, but just how he handles it, how he keeps the balance, how he's able to be there, how he's had a successful marriage for 40 plus years with my mother. And again, my mother's a tough cookie, right? But my dad still keeps, patience, and he's able to just, I'm able to see how, he genuinely, is a person that represents leader. And so if anybody said that was a mentor, he instilled in me always, don't be a follower, be a leader. He's always instilled in me to open doors, for my queen. He's instilled in me to always be thankful, right? Be thankful for everything I have. Anytime somebody helps me, yeah, just be thankful for that person and show your love for those people. So, that stuff right there just went so far, and it's rubbed off on me.
Yeah, I think I can sort of, I can relate to that as well. It's my parents as well. Like sort of, I like by example, just me seeing them, because like they've always been doing their own thing like the whole time, like just me growing up, I always seen them doing their own thing. So yeah, I can relate to that as well.
Nice, I love it.
100% sure. But yeah, I can relate to you. I'm very thankful for my parents. Obviously, they introduced me to you too, and I feel like I'm on a decent path right now. Like I know kind of what needs to be done for me to get to the point where I've made it. And it really is just a point of like putting in the work and actually doing it, rather than like what a lot of people look for in mentorships of like someone doing the work for them and just giving them a handout pretty much.
Exactly.
And right now, like this is us part of doing the work. Talking to people like you, putting ourselves out there, being a network, and just overall absorb all the information possible and applying it to our lives as well. So hopefully one day in the future, we can be in your position and be helping the masses too.
Yes, sir.
But I think like, if there are any other questions, like you have any, but I think this is.
I had one more question.
Okay.
Then we have two EAA.
Oh, yeah.
But just one more question before those. So obviously you started a training program, showing people how to get started in this business. So how did you sort of fall into the teacher role? Did that come naturally to you? Or was that something you have to sort of, figure out like, man, I'm teaching people now, right? So how did you sort of figure that whole thing out?
So I got an interesting story about that. I remember I was doing speaking. So honestly, my vision was I wanted to be a public speaker, motivational speaker / inspirational speaker, and I wanted to be in the school systems helping teenagers. That was what I saw. And I had a friend we were in Chicago, and his uncle he flew in from Houston, and we were speaking at his uncle's church, and we had a group of maybe possibly about 70 people we were speaking in front of, and we had some queens from Georgia, they were from Atlanta area, and they would come in, and I remember, and they were really heavily, big into they were prayer warriors, and they prayed over us, and one of them had got like she said something in my spirit. She said, you are a teacher. And it kind of took me off, like, a teacher, like, I'm a teacher? And she's like, yeah, you're a teacher. She was like, I don't know what it is, but this is what I'm getting, I'm receiving. And, I was kind of open because I was going through like my spiritual journey as well, right? And, for me, it was kind of like, okay, I'm a teacher, like, all right, like, thank you. And from that moment on, I remember more and more people were coming to me asking me things, and I was going through my life coaching program. But I remember as a coach, we were taught to just kind of distinctive listen and not to give our feedback. But I noticed that I would be able to listen to things and then give them instruction on how to do things. And so, even as I would start mentoring high schoolers, I would find myself just being able to, whatever we were talking about, having my outline, having my PowerPoint, and being able to teach, and they will be able to learn things. And so I didn't think too much of it. And so as we got to doing mobile homes, something told me, like, yo, we got to teach this. Because every time people would ask us, what did we do? And they would be so curious. And then I would just break it down to them, and they're just like, wow. And they would feel like they knew how to do it after I told them. And then I told Sharnice, we got to teach this. We got to teach this. And I had no idea. I never did a curriculum. I never been a teacher or anything like that. But, looking back at it, I believe in God. I believe in the divine. And it's something that put into me to put out this curriculum. And literally, again, all I did was make an outline. I regurgitated everything that I knew step by step. I thought about every single gap that I had. And then I just put it into PowerPoints, and I put it into curriculums, and I threw it into books. I never wrote a book before. I never did PowerPoint presentations. I never did any of that. And then we sat down, and Sharnice, same thing. She's never been a teacher. And we just recorded ourselves, and we put it together. Wow. And when we start seeing how we start changing people's lives, how people were able to take it step by step, then when I look back, it all made sense on why she said I was a teacher. And so for myself, even now, like, you might catch me on IG Live, I'm always teaching, right? I'm never selling, I'm always teaching. Because I look at it, I want to give people as much as I have. And if they want to buy the product and they want the extra, cool, you have this, you can get this product. But I want to show people and put people in a position that they can take the information that I teach them, and then they be able to carry it out.
Wow, man, that's powerful. And now you're helping people all around the country, man. Wow.
100%, sir. 100%.
That's crazy.
Dude.
Wow.
Oh, man. Okay. So we do have we have two specific EAA questions for our podcast that we ask every guest that we bring on. And the first one that we want to ask you is, where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? Where do you and your wife see yourself?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So 5 years from now, we definitely, we see ourselves raising our first child. I think in 5 years, we see our portfolio has increased to 50 plus mobile home communities. And then in 5 years, the goal is to educate over 1 million people in mobile home investing. So, really, I think the major thing, I think for me in 5 years, I'll be 40, and that'll be an opportunity for me to kind of get this game, everything that I have. And then even pivoting with, with technology, seeing where technology goes. And then last but not least, 5 years, that's when I'll be transitioning more into just buying previously existing business acquisitions, and then just and putting businesses in my portfolio.
Wow. That was detailed. Man, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. Man, 1 million, you trying to educate 1 million people?
Yes.
Man. I believe you can do it too, man. I see why she would say that about you, like a teacher. Like it's good energy, right?
It's
like you feel it.
There's so much insight. There's so much insight with the word you're saying, sir.
Lots of insight too. Yeah. What was the next one?
And the final question that I like to ask people are how has your definition of entrepreneurship changed as you've been in the game, and what is it right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think that before, when I got in the game, I just saw entrepreneurship as the money piece, right? Financial freedom. I can buy whatever I want. But now entrepreneurship to me is leadership, and it's leading people and helping people, not to say feed their families, but helping people to actually provide value to their family and friends. And so now, at being in this, I understand the responsibility I have, and not just conducting my life, just to be a stand-up guy, but more so, I understand the leadership role, of making sure I lead my team to much success. Because, at the end of the day, being a leader, I want to make sure that everybody that has come on board, right? I want to make sure that they're good, right? And if they're equipped and they're fueled, then they're going to make this ship just pretty much take off. And that way we all can, benefit from it, especially, starting out. We all benefited from where we are. So I see it more, less of just a financial freedom, but more so, entrepreneurship provides a quality of life that I pretty much love. And, what I mean by that is, I create my own schedule. I'm able to, for tomorrow, for example, Sharnice and I, we're going up to the championship game. We're going to the Bucks Suns game.
Hey, who are you rooting for, by the way?
I'm a little torn, man. Me and CP3 are the same age, and don't get me wrong, I want to see Giannis, continue his legacy. So I'm torn, man.
You gotta root for CP3, bro. You gotta root. Giannis has time, man. Giannis got time.
Yeah. Giannis has time, but at the same time, that's a young team. Phoenix is a young team, and again, I like both of them. Milwaukee is right, the city that's the closest to us, so. I'm torn, man. I'm really torn. I'm a LeBron James fan, so once the Lakers didn't make it, I just I'm watching it just for the entertainment aspect. But yeah, I think that it's provided freedom for us to really enjoy the quality of life. And I love giving Sharnice the things that she deserves. I love being able to provide my parents the things that they deserve, and even just for myself, I'm a sneakerhead, so buying gym shoes here and there, man, is always fuels me as well.
Yes, sir. That's great, sir. Well, thank you very much for coming on to the podcast. We very much appreciate your time, and I'm sure that our audience and everyone who watches this, they're gonna have so much value there, so much insights, and you're honestly just a great person overall. That I'm happy to get to know better. But if there isn't much else, I think it's a good place to conclude today's interview. And as always, all the info will be in the description. But thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Anytime.